I don't think I'm a part-time rental. You know somebody?
I know.
How was your vacation?
It was a conference.
Yeah.
It was good.
All those things we said in the motion,
Yeah, they were true.
we gotta refuse.
You want to do that too?
Okay.
Gotta make sure I get one that right.
Oh, good.
Public, they're going to talk to the public regarding watercraft control on Spring Lake because of high water level.
It's been nice and quiet.
I had a sheriff at my house for half an hour and he dropped off my tank at Friday night. I toured my improvements and everything.
Okay.
I wanted to see what was going on.
Yeah.
I want to see that bulldog. And I worked for those beats and
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah. I talked to some friends of ours that live down West Point Road. And I said, "Ooh." Going that way, but it's actually less. Most people don't.
Down Van Wagner. Oh, Panaluna. Oh, are they?
Norfolk to west of the end of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I know. I've only been here for a little while, but I do. I'm trying to pick it up.
You're understanding Michigander, is that what you're saying?
I'm trying.
Let's get this show in order.
6:59.
Oh, I'm ready. Can't wait. She looks at me like, oh, shit.
Here, look.
you got a rock here.
Better than mine.
Oh, this is one of the first meetings I actually look forward to.
I know, I just got a cut. Hairspray. That baby cut. Oh, 7.
I'd like to call the City of Ferrisburg City Council meeting to order tonight, Monday, July 15 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hop,
Here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Here.
Councilmember Twa.
Here.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Councilmember Blees.
Here.
At this time, I'd ask you to rise for the invocation given by myself, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here tonight to make decisions for our community. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Please protect all of our men and women in uniform and keep them safe from harm. We pray this in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Item number 5, public comment at this time on the agenda is for any citizen to direct brief comments or questions to City Council. Time for public comments will be given when an agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor. After being recognized by the mayor, please stand, give your name and address for the record, proceed with your comments or questions. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. So, any comments at this time? Okay, please stand at the podium, state your name and address.
My name's Jacob Sturley, 16269 Suffolk Drive. I want to talk about the Smiths Bridge closing. I admit that prior to Smiths Bridge closing, I was not a particularly engaged citizen in regards to my local government. When the bridge was closed, I felt as though our local government had failed its citizens, and I feel compelled to speak about this failure. As a result of the bridge closure, the city of Ferrysburg has been literally cut in half. There is now a North Ferrysburg and a South Ferrysburg. Residents of North Ferrysburg cannot access our city hall without leaving the city limits to get here. Businesses like the Reef, Keenan Marina, Citgo Full Service Gas Station, and Pine Street Cafe have had traffic redirected and it has negatively impacted their business. Some of the owners of these businesses have made it publicly known that they intend to close if the bridge is not reopened. Residents of North Ferrysburg now have to deal with longer wait times for emergency response vehicles, when time is a precious commodity during an emergency. Smiths Bridge is also perhaps the most iconic piece of infrastructure of Ferrysburg. It contributes to our city's charm, our small, idyllic lake town. Now, every time someone drives past it and sees closed signs and concrete barriers, it's a reminder that we live in a city that has failed to maintain its basic infrastructure. One basic responsibility of local government in Michigan is the maintenance of its roads and bridges. Cities like Ferrysburg receive gas and weight tax distributions from the state that are supposed to be used to maintain our local roads and bridges. According to the timeline posted on Ferrysburg's government website, the city acquired Smiths Bridge in 1985. By acquiring the bridge, along with some other roads, Ferrysburg became eligible for higher dollar amounts of tax distributions, yet from 1985 to 2008, nothing was done to maintain Smiths Bridge. While closing Smiths Bridge appears to have happened overnight, it is actually the result of decades of government neglect. But to put this in perspective, as homeowners, we are responsible for our roofs wearing out and deteriorating, so we plan, prepare, and save for the day they begin to leak. Isn't that the purpose of City Council? We entrust with them our city and our tax money to care for our city, which includes our roads and bridges. So when Smiths Bridge was closed, many people in Ferrysburg lost trust in their local government. I have provided the mayor and city council with copies of a protocol that I created that could serve as a roadmap for dealing with Smiths Bridge. If anybody would like a copy of this, please see me at the conclusion of this meeting. I believe there's also some copies up around here somewhere as well. Or you can feel to join a Facebook group, Save Smiths Bridge, where a copy of the proposed protocol is also posted. I believe the next vital step for our community that needs to be taken in order to properly move forward in figuring out the best way to deal with Smiths Bridge is to get a second opinion from another engineering company. An additional assessment will help confirm if any kind of reasonable repair can be done to the bridge to make it usable again, which could give our community additional time to properly prepare to replace Smiths Bridge. It will provide a more accurate estimate for replacement costs and will help dictate the language of a potential millage vote. A second opinion will also help rebuild trust between city citizens and between City Council and the citizens of Ferrysburg. I ask that City Council call for a vote tonight to authorize another engineering company to do an additional assessment on the condition of Smiths Bridge. I believe Ferrysburg will be best equipped to move forward once it acquires more information than an additional engineering assessment would provide. Thank you.
Firm.
Madam Mayor? No. We have used this company for many, many years. It is a reputable company. We have paid our money for this, what I want to say, the advice of the engineer. And we voted as a council unanimous to close it based on those findings. If we employ another contractor, engineering firm to give a second opinion and it doesn't agree with that, we open up the bridge, somebody gets hurt, then what? I am not putting it on my conscience to have anybody get hurt on a bridge that is unsafe. I will err on the side of safety every time. To get a second opinion, I feel, is just a waste of taxpayer dollars to get another second opinion. If Mr. Steerly, is that how you say your last name, would like to get one, fine.
Right now, we're discussing.
We've used this company for years. Nobody said anything, ever, until the bridge was closed.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I've been on council 10 years plus. We've watched this bridge deteriorate. Everybody seems to think this is a big surprise. We've been telling you for 10 years that this bridge needs to be replaced. Last winter, the deterioration rate was accelerated because of the winter to the point where, for safety reason, we had to close it. There is no option. So, a second opinion, what can I say? I mean, it's deteriorated to the point it's unsafe. No other reputable engineer is going to say anything different. We've watched pit photos for the last 10 years, just continuously get worse. So that's my position on it.
Any other council feedback?
Yes, Mayor Hopp, I would certainly agree with Kathleen Kennedy, Councilman Kennedy, about the fact that the citizen safety comes first. But I also wholeheartedly agree with the letter that we received from Mr. Sandy. It was Dr. Sandy from the north side of Ferrysburg, talking about the fact that, geez, if you came down with a illness like cancer or something else, certainly you're encouraged to get a second opinion. And I'm not a big fan of getting second opinions when it comes to professionals, but certainly when the doctor gave me an analogy of, hey, getting a second opinion when it's something life-threatening, when we're dealing with an infrastructure expenditure that is 3 times our annual budget, and asking the citizens to fork out at least 3.5 mils to potentially 4.5 mils of taxation on themselves, I feel that a second opinion might be worthy. And I'm not so sure about regaining the trust in the council or local government, as Councilman DeWitt stated. Certainly, council has been dealing with this for much longer than 10 years. The citizens turned down a millage proposal a few years ago for repairing the bridge, which was just a stopgap measure. And so potentially, could the thing be repaired? Maybe. But I feel it's worthy of a second look, a look over.
Yes. The last millage request was 1.5 years ago, in November, and that request was to replace the bridge, not to repair the bridge.
Okay, very good.
If that wasn't enough of a flag saying that we have an issue here, I don't know what more we could have done. We have looked at the reports. There are severe issues with the bridge regarding what holds it together. We're talking steel rods that are rusted away, cables that are rusted. These are tension cables within the box beams that are rusted away. There's no fixing it. There's no, if we tear the top off of this bridge and the beams are below and have to be, any of those beams have to be replaced, it's a whole rebuild. And we don't have the money for it. So where would we be? Right where we're at right now, without the expense. I'm not in favor of spending any more tax dollars on that bridge at this point, unless it's for a millage vote, and that's where I stand.
Your Honor, we received some very comprehensive reports on that bridge. I mean, some very detailed reports on that bridge. And I don't think a second opinion would make any difference. They would come up with the same thing. We'd spend thousands of dollars on a report that would tell us exactly what we already know. It's a waste of money. It's not like cancer. There's a big difference. This is concrete, literal concrete evidence that there is deterioration and it has to be replaced. And it would be a waste of money.
You're up.
Yes.
Yeah, this has been a long time that we've looked at this, and the voters decided November 2017 to, no, they did not want to pass a millage. So it's, yeah, a really tough decision. And of course, it's not an issue until you close the bridge. Now it's an issue because now it's closed. But I agree with Councilman Kennedy. I am not going to take that chance of anybody getting hurt on that bridge. How would you like if your family or friends got hurt by a vehicle going over the bridge? So it's closed. And no, I don't think a second opinion would be viable at this time.
So what I'm hearing from council is where we're at this point, the bridge is remaining closed. We'll continue on searching for other funding and choosing not to have city manager search for a second opinion at that point. Because I too have been on council the longest of this group, and I have been face to face. I've been at tables, I've been attending meetings where other former council members and mayors were not present. It was appalling when I looked at the number of times that people failed to appear to represent Ferrysburg. But under my leadership, we have transparency. The new website information is out there about meeting minutes, agendas, all of that. Our emails are there. We are live streamed. So we have done our due diligence to inform the residents of what is going on. And we are always willing to meet and talk and discuss things with people, either door to door or at the local coffee shop. And at the last, when Senator Victory and also Representative Lilly were in Ferrysburg at Pine Street, 4 council members sat at the table with them to discuss Smith's Bridge and possible funding. And there was 2 other residents, and those 2 other residents that were there spoke only on behalf of their concerns with short-term rent. Not one person was there to discuss any infrastructure, any concerns with Smith's Bridge at all. None of that. So, but you did have 4 council members that were at the table for approximately an hour plus. And that was just the most recent meeting that we've had with them. The engineering firm that we have, along with city manager and myself, and the US DOT, along with other leaders from the BUILD grant that we were not successful in getting last December, we were able to schedule a conference call in January. We have done our due diligence. I have been out there and I have talked with many people, sat through many meetings, anybody that I can talk to about the bridge and the need to represent, because Ferrysburg is so tiny and so small that when a lot of the funding comes through from the federal to the state, it seems to be earmarked for Southeast Michigan. It's just how the numbers fall. So at this point, yes.
Could I make one more?
Yes.
I would appreciate if we would not hear the term North Ferrysburg and South Ferrysburg or West Ferrysburg or East Ferrysburg. We are one city. We are all in this together. We are all citizens of one city, not north, not south, east, west, or any. We are all the city Ferrysburg citizens.
That's correct, because us council are selected by the residents. We are not set up according to wards. We don't represent separate areas of the town or special interests, none of that. We represent approximately 3,100 residents in the city of Ferrysburg. So, okay, so we have that. Yes.
Just to expand on that meeting we had with Senator Victory and Mr. Lilly. Previously, the state has committed $500,000 to us. We did get that up. They did commit $1 million to this bridge project. So we grabbed them by their ear and twisted it, but there's not going to be any federal money. We keep applying for grants. We keep getting turned down. We have done everything in our power. All of us have met with representatives, state senators, U.S. reps, U.S. senators. This is where we're at.
Your Honor, if I may, one more comment. As far as comments being made about not only this council and our city manager about mismanagement, I take exception to that. I've already spoke to one person directly about it. There's a lot of social media comments about it. This council works diligently. This city manager works exceptionally hard. And if you can find mismanagement, I'd be more than willing to call it what it is. But there is no mismanagement going on here, and I take exception. And if you care to speak to me about it or any member of this council, please step forward after the meeting. I'll gladly defend this council and this city manager. That's it.
I'd like to also expand when he said that nothing was done. There's many things that have been done. The Headley override did not pass. The voters voted it down. It was defeated. That would have gave us, if that passed, my understanding is about $10 million. We wouldn't be having this conversation if that was passed. We've also asked for millage. Again, it was defeated. That would have gave us money for this bridge. Again, it was defeated. When they said we were not represented at the West Michigan Metropolitan Transportation Planning Program, also known as the MPO. Nobody was at the table. A former councilwoman was supposed to be there for 2 years, and I have before me the meetings, and at every meeting she was absent. That is the party that puts it on the radar for this bridge. Now it's on their radar under Mayor Hobbs' tenure. She went to them. This needs to be addressed. We need your help. But for 2 years, we didn't have representation.
Okay. Further public comments? Okay, go ahead.
Nicole Vandenberg, 16814 Virginia Avenue. I liked Mr. O'Donnell's comment that we are one Ferrysburg. My thought on this issue is that I don't get to vote which roads get paved in Ferrysburg because we are one Ferrysburg. When North Shore Drive needs to be paved, we all shell out money to pave North Shore Drive. Every other road we all pay for together. The fact that this is coming to a vote for another millage, if that's what happens, is going to leave it to the voters that do not use the bridge, but use every other road in Ferrysburg. And so to leave that decision to citizens that don't use portions of it, that seems unfair to me. And the millage that we did have last time, I remember voting no on that, because at the time I believed that the city could work harder to find grant money to replace the bridge, and that just to ask for a millage was going to be the easiest way to get the bridge replaced. And I believed that council was going to ask for money from us first before they did everything they could do to find money for the bridge. And I think there's a lot of other people that voted that way. And if there was another millage coming up on the vote, I would vote for it. And I would encourage all the money that's being raised for the bridge. People keep saying that's a drop in a bucket, but it's not if we can get more votes for this millage. And if we use that money that we've raised to get signs, to get awareness, to get more votes, then we can have change. And the council represents the people. I don't, the voters are going to tell us whether they want this or not. I think it's the council's responsibility to get it on the ballot so that the voters can choose. Saying that we voted it down 2 years ago, which seems to be a common theme, does not mean that that's how the whole city feels today. I think there would be a huge difference in votes if we voted it again, and it's not going to cost us more money to put it on the ballot. It just should be a choice that we should all have. So, it would it's affecting me every day to have that bridge closed. It's affecting a lot of people. There's gonna be people that say, oh, that's not my problem, but that still enjoy all sorts of tax money taking care of their roads on the other side of town. When we took ownership of the bridge in 1985, the money that we got as a city went to other projects in the city, and so our taxes weren't being raised then because we were all benefiting from this tax money. It just didn't get saved for the bridge. And I don't think that's a bad thing that we didn't start saving in 1985, because if you were to start saving in 1985 $1 million, you would lose so much purchasing power with that money. So to save it then, when the bridge, we would have never thought that we'd be at this point where it's 13 million because of the inflation. It makes sense to use money today and use yesterday's dollars on yesterday's projects, in my mind. And I know there's a lot of people mad that we didn't start saving in 1985, but that money did go back into our community, and Ferrysburg did use that money when it had better purchasing power than it does now. So I'd like to see a millage put on the ballot in November. That's what I'm asking for. I think a lot of the citizens are asking for that. I think just saying we voted it down once isn't a good enough answer. I think we got to vote again. And that's how we as citizens should be able to decide that. If that isn't the best option, then I think an assessment put on everybody's taxes with no vote would get a bridge. But I don't know the legality of the city just imposing it. You know, I'm not sure the answer to that, but the fact that there's no questions when other roads need to be replaced, you know, that's just how I feel about it personally. Thank you.
Mrs. Royce, did you choose? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Roger.
Roger Jonas, 16038 Harbor Point Drive. I'll try to be brief, Mrs. Mayor, but you know me. Anyway.
Minutes, public comment.
Got 3 minutes.
First of all, thank you for reappointing me to another 3 years on the Planning Commission. As I announced to our meeting last week, I told my fellow commissioners, I said, this is my last term on the Planning Commission, promise, because in 3 years I'll be 80 years old, and I have a personal retirement plan that says 80 and out. So, but we still have 2 vacancies on that. So, anybody who's interested, please apply. Regarding the bridge, I've thought about this a lot. I've read the engineering reports. We talked about this in Planning Commission the other night. I'm speaking as a citizen now and not a representative of that commission. In my opinion, there's so much misinformation out there that I think we have a public relations problem more than anything. And that by that I mean that. There are a lot of facts that are not being stated correctly necessarily. The timeline in the Tribune yesterday or Friday was excellent. I thought that gave a better perspective on things. The fact the city took it over in 1985 is a moot point. It's our bridge now, and decisions made back then are decisions made. So that, as far as the engineering report itself, in my opinion, it was lacking in some regards, and I speak as somebody who used to be in the business of inspecting reinforced concrete structures for corrosion, specifically. A couple firms I worked for, and some big things, 600-foot smokestacks, and top to bottom all the way around it. And I could tell you stories about that. But anyway, we used to map it out pretty closely, and in the report that we got gives one cross-section of the bridge to try to give you an idea how it was constructed. And I think most people don't really understand that part of it to begin with. We talk about box beams and the tendons in the box beams that are broken. There's 104 box beams on that bridge, 104. And with a diagram, it would show exactly which ones were the problem ones, were the outside ones where the walkway are, or the inside ones. The problem with losing a tendon on a box beam is those are under tension, those are pre-tensioned, so the concrete under compression is very strong. Concrete under tension is only 1/10 the strength, so you lose that tendon, you lose 1/10 of the strength of that one beam. So overall, it could be a domino effect. So, but without seeing it kind of a visual on that. It's hard for me to envision to see, you talk about second opinion on the another engineering company. I think a second go around on getting more information on that inspection would help all of us understand what's going on. So therefore, we can make a case that it has to be replaced instead of repaired, can't be repaired. I think that's a big issue. Because I'll be honest, I told Craig the other day, I said, I think the last millage on the bridge is probably the only one I've ever voted no on in my life, and I'll tell you why. I don't think we made the case, and I say we collectively. I didn't see the plan forward on that, you know, on we start collecting millage, how soon could we get a bridge replacement? If it would have passed a year and a half ago, we'd still be where we are now. I mean, we couldn't keep on. The repairs weren't an option at that point. So I didn't see what the path forward was on it. So I think, I mentioned the PR problem. I think what has to happen now, and I'm not going to second guess council's decision on whether close it or not close it, because I understand how your decision was made, and I don't second guess people on their decisions. But anyway, if we're going to put this issue on the ballot in September and November, I think we need a series of town halls to explain a lot of things. I think councils in the past have been frugal. I know I've been involved with city government for 20 years. I've lived in Ferrisburg for 38. I've seen some administrations that weren't too frugal, but in the last 20 years, I think pretty much we have been. So I don't question the way our tax dollars are spent. I feel like I'm getting my monies for my village, but I know time's up.
Yeah.
When the clock goes off, that's the timer. So I'm just saying that I hope if we go forward on this, we can get all of us educated a little bit more on what it is we're looking at, timelines, and all those kinds of things. I think they go a long way towards allaying a lot of fears that some people have and getting rid of the misinformation and things out there that are just floating around.
That's why Mr. Bessinger and I worked quite a while to create that timeline so that we could get that out to the public so they had accurate information to be working with. Additional comments?
Hi, my name is Ann Smith. I'm at 17520 Williams Avenue in Spring Lake. So a couple things I'd like to bring to your attention. I've owned property in Ferrisburg for the last 10 years. I have never once received any communication because I am non-homesteaded, therefore I cannot vote in Ferrisburg. There has been no communication whatsoever to those of us that are non-voting members of the city of Ferrisburg to be able to know what has been going on and to help educate the folks. I spent the weekend working with Craig, reviewing. I have over 30 years of experience with grants. I volunteered my time. I went through the proposal. I read the RFA. I have offered to assist the city council. And my husband, I believe you received the literature. He works in composites, and one of the things I specialize in is providing materials for bridges. He works with several engineering firms, and we are proposing that the bridge belongs to all of us as citizens of Ferrisburg. And so therefore, we are proposing that we're asking council to basically put together a committee that is made up of citizens to help city council that has expertise that we can help you to figure out how to get communication out, how to look for funding opportunities, and to connect with, I actually know one of the engineers who works for MDOT. I actually been in contact with him. He's trying to get me information as well. But in agreement with what Roger, I don't know your last name, indicated, we did not see some of the stuff in that report that called for the immediate closing of the bridge. And I think that's where, and I also know that you have an engineering firm who offered to do a second opinion for $1,200. I offered to pay for that and was told that I couldn't do it because it needed to come from you. I think you would find you have citizens who are willing to donate to have that second opinion done, to give you more information. and it wouldn't have to come out of the city council's budget. The other thing I asked Craig about today is what is the percent of the people in Ferrysburg who vote that are not, that own homes in Ferrysburg that are homesteaded versus non-homesteaded? I think you have a very high portion of homes owned that are second homes and are non-homesteaded, and we cannot vote. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Royce.
Lisa Royce, 17700 Navajo. Most of you know I've been coming to meetings for a really, really long time. And this bridge issue's been an issue for at least 20 years since I've lived here. It is a problem because of where Smith's Bridge is. And Kathleen, I wanted to ask, because at the last meeting you said 60% of the population lived on that side.
Of 31, US 31.
Oh, that's not what you said. So
division
that
thing.
was a different,
Yeah.
I thought you said on the other side
I
of
hope you didn't
Smith's
lose
Bridge.
any sleep over
Well,
it.
no,
but-
I just wondered where you got your numbers on where that was, but I'm just saying, it's been an issue for a long time, and I think council was surprised at the last meeting because Sandy and I have been coming for a really long time, and we've been also helping to get the citizens on Facebook and everything, and Sandy has been foremost, taping meetings for years until we finally got it on Facebook, trying to get the community involved with the city of Ferrysburg. So, I think when we had that last report, when the woman came in to give the report, I think we were all shocked. I know I was shocked when she said it deteriorated 60% faster than the last time. I think that caught every single one of us, because I don't think any of us thought that was going to happen. I think we all thought there was a 5 or 10 more years on that bridge. When she said that, we were all kind of like, wow. I mean, because it had never been that much. So something obviously happened from the previous one that I think caught everybody off guard. So I think, like the past people said, that there needs to be more communication, and I think there should be things out there to pool minds together. We did call the state, and I know that there's 1,100 bridges in the state of Michigan that need repairs. Ottawa County is probably one of the richest counties in Michigan. We're going to be passed up for a lot of grants because where the money is, it ain't going to go. So I was wondering, because we've ran in this problem with Spring Lake Township and Ferrysburg before on projects on one side that affect this side. Woodland Ridge comes to mind. We all know that. We had to block a road because Spring Lake Township was driving through, and they don't have any roads that are Spring Lake Township. They drive through Ferrysburg to get there. Well, is there a way that we could do maybe a toll on the bridge, or do, funding from, the bridge to Johnston Boiler where there's a millage, and then do some other kind of thing where you could maybe special assess, or because Spring Lake Township does use that side and they would never be taxed for the bridge. So, there's a lot of things there. It's hard to do. It's a very complicated issue. But I just wanted to say to the fact that you guys, I think, were just as broad-sided. I didn't expect for you guys to do what you did that night, and we come to meetings, which you probably wish I didn't come to the meetings, but I'm just saying we've come to tons, and I was just as shocked. I don't use the bridge very often, and everything, I don't like the north and south thing because I don't think that's true either, but I just think, if we work together, we might be able to solve it.
Public comment regarding anything? Yes, sir.
Andrew Ross, 16960 Cecilia Lane, Ferrysburg Heights. I'm trying that one on. How's that one sound?
I like it. I like it.
I've been using that one for a while now, even before this bridge thing. So I've been a Ferrysburg resident for 20 years. I've had very good experiences with many of the people on council, although Mr. Bessinger has kind of screwed me over on a couple personal property issues. I still have a lot of respect for him. He does a great job. I think there's been a lot of noise in the background for a number of years. You folks seem awfully defensive over the bridge. I can understand it. There's a vocal minority that wants to roast you over this. It's been a topic of conversations for a number of years. But from our perspective as citizens, what I think I would ask you to open your eyes to is that we don't come to meetings because we trust you guys. We live in a community where we've gotten a really big bang for our taxation dollar for a lot of years. Look at our compadres in Spring Lake and Grand Haven and what they pay versus what we pay and what we have for it. It's a phenomenal bedroom community. However, we have a very limited number of tax parcels. So, you know, now that people are showing up, it's because the bridge has been closed. So you all can say, take our word for it, there are no options. You know, people are apathetic, and until there's a real problem, they're not going to be involved. They've trusted you for a lot of years to run the city efficiently, and you've done that. Now, I think a couple of things we could do to help everybody understand would be release the full data of the reports, release a summary from the engineer explaining the details.
It is.
It is available
Well,
at
I
City
didn't
Hall.
see it on the website. I looked.
Oh, it's available at City Hall?
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I looked
so,
extensively on the website. It is 2019.
It
and
is. It is
perhaps
at
we
City
could-
Hall.
Yeah, perhaps
Yeah.
we could have those things
Sure.
online.
Definitely.
And then please consider the second option. You're right, it's not cancer. Believe me, I understand your look
It's
when they
not
said that.
cancer.
However, if a mechanic told you that your car motor was about to go out and you needed to replace the motor, you'd probably have a second mechanic look at it. There are people that have other experiences and, you know, poured in place bridges, different options. I think it's worth, since the citizens have asked for it, I think it's something that's worth considering and not totally shutting out of your minds at this point. And I think we should take our time. Somebody earlier mentioned that there's been public relations issues. Yeah, I agree. And again, the apathy of the general populace is such that, hey, listen, now that it's a problem, I think we should, everybody take a deep breath and let's share a little more information and try to get back to where we're having some discussions about our options. And my final request, can we please get an option for demolishing the bridge? It is 2.7 miles from one road closed sign to the other road closed sign, and it takes 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It's actually quicker for me to go to Grand Haven now. It took me 3 days to not program my mind to go over the bridge, but now it's natural. It's quicker to get to Grand Haven. It's quicker to get to Ferrysburg. It's quicker to get a lot of the places that I go than to go through town. How terrible, though, for the Reef, for Keenan's, for Tri-Cities, for Pizza Hut, for Miss Lisa's. A lot of people are going to fly through Ferrysburg without that bridge. So without, you know, without a second opinion, without fully exploring our options for repair or replace, and then without understanding what the citizens' cost would be for a full demo, you know, a lot of things are nice to have, but we can't afford them. There's a lot of things I know my wife would like to have, but we can't afford, so we don't have them. Maybe a bridge over Smith's Bayou is one of those things. If it's $13 million to replace it, you know, listen, we could do a lot for our citizenry with that $13 million. I can drive around Smith's Bayou a lot of times, 2.7 miles, for $13 million. So I think that's one other option that should be a legitimate, serious option that's on the table in this conversation, is a total removal of the bridge. Thank you.
To your point, the price to remove that bridge is just under $1 million.
I'm selling this shirt for $3 million.
Yeah, I addressed your shirt.
His shirt.
Well, that was part of the proposal we got, is $1 million to remove it.
That's pretty interesting.
Uh-huh.
Done by the end of the season?
It would still take approximately 2 years because of all the permitting that would need to happen. So, yes, sir.
Marcus Joseph, 16858 Cecilia Lane, neighbors with in the hood there with Andrew. Just have a couple of quick comments. I'm a proponent of a second opinion. I really think, especially when we hear a possibility of $1,200 for a second opinion. And then the other comment I have, two comments, is the 13 million. I'm assuming we've got one bid. I mean, everybody talks about 13 million, but I don't know, is that online? Is it in City Hall here where we can look at the bid from the contractor? And then I heard through the grapevine, and I don't know if this is true or not, the bridge company that gave us a bid of 13 million and this engineer that did the report, is there any ties between the engineer that did this report and the company that gave us a bid for 13 million. I heard there was, but that could just be hearsay.
We have not received any bids for that bridge yet. This is the engineer's estimate of $13 million based on quantities, length, and so forth.
Comments, questions? Yes, ma'am. You've been heard once, so we have public comments at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll move forward with our meeting. Moving down to item number 6, consideration approval of consent agenda. A, approve the June 17, 2019 City Council meeting minutes as printed. B, approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission to appoint Planning Commissioner John Raffel to the Zoning Board of Appeals as a Planning Commissioner representative. C, approve the recommendation from the Planning Commission to appoint Daniel Wilkie to the Planning Commission for the term ending July 1, 2022. D, adopt the ordinance number 307, ordinance to amend the city code by amending chapter 154 zoning to amend section 2.20 definition sections 3.60 projections into yards for architectural building features, stoops, decks, balconies, and window awnings. E, approve the recommendation from the Kitchell-Linquist Hartford Dune Preserve Board to approve the proposal for Carno to eradicate invasive species at the Kitchell-Linquist Hartford Dune Preserve.
So moved.
Support.
Motion
I have a question. Is Daniel Wickie here? Ah, good. I noticed that you are a 10-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and you're a Ferrysburg resident. I also serve on the Beautification Committee. We always look for a Grand Marshal every year, a veteran from Ferrysburg.
You're recruited.
I noticed this. If this is something that you're interested in, would you please talk to Mr. Bessinger? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so there's a motion support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Moving down to new business. A, discussion and take action if appropriate to adopt a resolution placed on the ballot proposal to the city voters for the November 5 general election to levy up blank mills to the city's estimated cost to replace Smith's Bridge. So in our packet, we had a breakdown of 20, 25 years, and 30 years, and there's 3.6 mills, 4 mills, and 4.5 mills. Remember, this is a long-term asset to the city, also if we make that decision to go with the millage.
Just to expand on that, Mayor Hop, we did request tentative figures of what a millage would cost to support a $13 million bond proposal. The person that works with us for our bonds has indicated that 30 years would probably be the max due to the low interest rates right now, that if we extend it out any further, it would probably not be ready, available for, looking for buyers for that bond. So his recommendation is no longer in 30 years.
Craig, did the bond broker feel that 30 years was marketable? Would we be better off and more saleable at 25 or 20?
Lower the better. The lower the shorter the term, the better it'd be marketable.
So what happens if we decide tonight to go for a 30-year bond proposal, and after the fact we find out that, hey, it's not that saleable?
Then we would probably be paying more in interest rates.
Okay.
So right now, the average coupon for a 20-year is about 2.7, and then for the 25, it's approximately 3% average, and it goes up to about 3.4 for 30 years.
And is this a bond that would be renegotiable after 5, 10, 30 years, or how does that work? Is it a fixed?
It's usually not negotiable, but we could ask for it to be callable. In case something came up, we could pay it off early.
Okay.
So it is stated on here too, that if either the grants that we have applied for anyways are successful, the millage levy would be reduced also to offset that, whatever the grant funding that the city does receive. So, yes.
We've had a number of different estimates for road repairs and road reconstruction through the years from the engineering company, and many times they are way off base. What confidence do we have that 13 mil is going to be enough to demo the bridge and reconstruct the bridge. And if we ask the voters for 13 million, and let's say it goes 10% over, that's 1.3 mil over. Are we up a creek?
The city would be responsible for the additional funding to pay back. You know, once the city council decides on a millage, that millage is set. It cannot be raised. So if anything that is above and beyond what that millage is supporting will be a city cost.
Okay, so is it something where council might want to entertain doing more than 13 million?
Well, she did do her estimate, and she did put in, I think MDOT allows for 3% inflation every year. So this project will not take place in probably till 2022. So she has that figured in there, that inflation rate.
So this is for construction in 2022?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done.
Craig, to his point, if it ran 10% over, and it went, so we're looking at 1.3 million, can the city pay that out of our current budget?
For 20 years, there'd be some sacrifice, but I think the city could do that. You know, we have our North Shore grant, or drive grant out there, and bids were due Friday, and they came in 27% over engineer's estimate.
How many percent higher?
27.
27% over the engineer's estimate. That was for North Shore.
North Shore Drive, yep.
Okay.
Is that a project we can back out of due to the cost?
We're gonna meet this week and talk about options, whether we scale back the project or do something different.
Because we committed to that project, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
That's correct.
Well, just to Richard's point, you know, we're 27% over the estimated, you know, we can't absorb that if this bridge project goes over that in 4 years.
Well, in 2024, the millage bond gets paid off for the bike path.
Yeah.
And so right now, the general fund is supplementing some of that payment, so that would be available for us after that time.
Would have a road revenue available if necessary to pay any additional fees?
Right, we'd probably maybe have to postpone street projects or scale them back.
I would support a 30-year millage just because I think the mills to the residents would be a lot cheaper for them to afford. So that's what I would support, 30 years. I know it's not quite as marketable as 20, 25 years, but boy, that's a lot. That's a heavy mill to absorb. 4.5 and 3.9, 4%. 3.6 is high enough.
Some challenges within our community in that, so we have to definitely be aware of those challenges that individuals have.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to point out, seeing that we're talking about the 30-year option here, for those of you who don't have the paperwork in front of you, that 30-year option is going to be a $7.718 million interest that we have to pay, so that our $13 million bridge is going to cost us $20,718,000. So just so you're aware of what we're looking at here.
Two things, Your Honor. Craig, on North, I'm still stunned by the 27% over budget on North Shore. Who's the engineering firm on that project?
Brandon Newhoff.
And the engineering firm for the bridge is?
It was
so
Williams
far,
and Work.
Williams and Works.
But she went to a different company just
different
recently.
engineering company. Very good. Secondly, is that I am interested in making a motion for getting a second opinion so that we all get on record and do a roll call vote, because I don't feel for the second opinion. At what point in the meeting could I do that?
Not at this point.
I realize that.
So we can look at that to add.
It's the end of the meeting.
End of someplace.
Special meeting.
I can make a point of order to add something to the agenda, can I not?
Yes.
Okay, I asked to do that.
Just so the citizens realize, we're not trying to push anything through here. But to get it on the ballot in November, it has to be submitted to the county by July 30th. So that's why we're discussing it tonight. Just so you're aware that we're not trying to force anything here, but if you want it on the ballot in November, it has to be decided by July 30th.
And this is our last meeting until August 5th, so. I don't know, this would be the clerk.
If it were on the March 10th ballot, which is a presidential preference election, the city would pay a portion of that election. If it were in May, the city would pay the full cost of the entire election. If it were at the August presidential primary, there's no cost to the city. And the November presidential election would be no cost to the city.
And that's in 2020.
2020.
Right, so we're gonna be adding, Councilmember Carlson wanted to add an agenda item, so we'll put it down to 7, D1 before the work session.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, he's making that a motion or to vote on
I
tonight?
will be making a motion.
Huh. I thought, I'm confused.
He's asking for an agenda item to request a second opinion on the engineering for the bridge.
Thank you, Craig.
So, at this point, we need to have a decision. Are we moving forward with a millage request to our residents for November? And if so, our options would be 20, 25, or 30 years. And then out of those, you would be the equivalent millage funding. So 20 years would be 4.5. We would have 25 years would be 4 point. And then we could have the 30-year would be approximately 3.6.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment before we get into this. I am dead set opposed to any millage request at this time for the following reasons. Before we tax ourselves and our children to paying this high a tax, do they realize that that'll be almost 14 mills that we're going to be charging in taxes? If you on our largest tax holder, a taxpayer, they'll be paying $116,000 a year in taxes, and that's a total of 14 mills on our largest taxpayer, and our largest taxpayer is also one of our business owners. This will very possibly adversely affect our businesses. We have businesses that are operating right now at bare minimum profits. And I've already had one business owner who said, "You raise the mills, even 2 mills, and I'll probably close up shop." One of the nicest things I have is when I go to the MML conference and they talk about dark storefronts, I can go in there and I say, "We don't have any. Our businesses are full here. We have good business owners and responsible business owners." I'm afraid that if we pass a millage before we do our due diligence, we're going to lose some of our businesses, and even we could potentially lose some of our major businesses. Bridges and roads are only basically designed to last 30 years. We ask for a millage to pay for 30 years. We're going to pay off a bridge and have to go turn right around and rebuild the bridge. And where's the money going to come from for maintenance of that bridge? We have other stakeholders involved. Lisa Royce, you and I butt heads a lot of times, but I'm gonna agree with you on this. We've got to look at the other stakeholders. Spring Lake, every major project that we are involved in and have been involved in the last few years, the force main, the pumps, North Shore Drive, we've always shared the cost of those major events with the other stakeholders involved. Spring Lake, that bridge closing, I'm sure it affects the people that live in Spring Lake. Let's go to Spring Lake and say, hey, would you be willing to vote on a millage? Do you realize a half a mil from Spring Lake is going to pay a lot more money, bring a lot more money in than a half a mil from Ferrysburg? I think that we need to look at that. We need to look at the what we're going to lose. We've got other millages in the future that are going to come up. And I'm sorry, you asked for 4 mills and you want another mill for this item? I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay anymore. People have already shown that in the past, we're reluctant to pay for things. Like I said, the maintenance of the bridge, the maintenance of our roads. Craig said, if we have that cost overrun, you're gonna have to give stuff up. We're gonna have to give stuff up. I live in the city, and I love the way it runs right now. I'm not gonna miss that bridge. I do miss the bridge. I live over that way. And I use it every morning to go to work, and every night coming home from work. But a little inconvenience for what we already have in the city, I think we need to take a further look. We don't need to put the millage on the ballot at this time. We can wait a year. Even if the millage passed this year, it's still going to take a couple of years to get the bridge up and running. So why not wait a year? Do our due diligence. Look, get the other stakeholders involved. Ask for I don't know, other options. There's other options on the table.
What is the consensus of council? Do we want to push this millage off till a later date? Guess that's something we can discuss now, or do we want to?
I'd say go for a later date.
Good.
I'd be in favor of tabling it this time. Even if we pass it, if you pass the millage tonight, we start collecting money, you're looking at 4 years before that bridge will be finished. It's gonna be at least a year for DEQ, design, and everything else. Before that bridge will be open, it'll be 4 years.
3 to 4 years.
Yeah, three to four. Typically, it goes longer than they anticipate, but in my mind, passing the millage will get it done quicker. But to Tim's point, number one, we need to do an assessment. Do we really need that bridge? Number one, and number two, I just don't see this kind of millage passing. I gotta be honest. I'll be glad to put it on the ballot if that's what you want, but I don't see it passing. Then where are we? We're right back where we were tonight. And, yeah, I don't know. I guess I can go either way. If you want to put it on the ballot, I'll vote for it, but.
Anyone else with feedback?
Well, I have a problem with asking Spring Lake Township for even a half mil. If I lived in Spring Lake Township, that would be voted down flat. It would be like if Spring Lake Township asked Ferrysburg for half a mil. I don't think Ferrysburg voters would vote that in either. And I don't think, legally, can they do that? Can we ask another city, township, or whatever for something like that? But the force main is water sewer.
That's all sewer.
That's different. That's a combined entity.
Yeah, I mean, the Spring Lake Township and Ferrysburg use that. That's why it's a shared cost.
We could create a bridge authority or something, though.
Just for information, like a 3.6 million mills levied on a $200,000 house would cost a homeowner $360. 4.5 mills would cost a homeowner $450 a year.
25-year millage rate is what?
If at 20 years, if we levied 4.5 mills, it'd be $450 on a $200,000 house.
Michael, how much does a pack of cigarettes cost these days?
A lot more than they did 30 years ago.
Like around $6. I mean, $6 times 7, if you're a pack a day, is $42. Times 52 is $21.84 a year that you're spending smoking. Even if you cut that in half, it's $1,000.
I enjoy smoking more than the
Well,
bridge.
there's your tax money right there. If you're a smoker, quit.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Yes.
Hold on.
I'm
Stop.
having, I need to, there's sidebar conversations that are going on, Ms. Royce, and now.
Sorry, I just thought people should know the actual price that we were talking about, because millage doesn't really do anything for people. They see no actual dollar amount that's coming out of the
Okay. Discussion, yeah. Then we'll open it to public comment. Okay, just, can you hold, please, while I answer?
Certainly there, you could give a better explanation about SEV versus like $100,000 SEV, $200,000 market-priced home, what it would cost the average citizen, Craig. And then the other part of it is, the other thing that I wanted to mention is we have a vehicle maintenance bond coming up, vehicle replacement bond that we're going to need to be reviewing, millage, that's expiring, what, in 2020? 2021, that we're going to have to go after the citizens for what kind of rate again? That's 1 mil?
1 mil at least.
At least
That
1
funds
mil
are gonna be
for
depleted by then.
vehicle replacement for the city,
Yes.
because that's expiring in 2021.
Correct. Okay.
No. And also on the sidebar, council's not making any money on this.
No. So do we want to table the millage?
Second? Aye.
No.
Moving down to 7B, introduction of ordinance. This is only introduction of ordinance number 308, an ordinance to amend the city code by amending chapter 154 zoning and to amend section 2.20 definitions in section 9.150 section of district standards. And there is information in your packet. This has come through the Planning Commission, and it's regarding the 35-foot height for a residence. So, Councilmember Twa, you are on the Planning Commission?
Correct.
Were you part of this discussion? Do you want to? Because this is just an introduction, so we're not looking for a motion of support.
The Planning Commission talked extensively about this, and it was recommended by our Roger, planner, thank you. It was recommended that to delete the reference to the 2.5-story wouldn't have an adverse effect on how anything was built. The 35-foot maximum building height would remain, and the changes would basically be in wording. Realize there's people out there who are concerned that this somehow is going to change, that huge houses are going to be popping up. We still have a 35-foot maximum height, and that's how we're presenting it.
So it would just be deleting the one section which references the 2.5-story home, correct?
Correct.
Definition.
Roger, do you have any other input on that?
You're not Roger.
I'll tell you just a minute,
I'm
sir.
asking the planning commission chairman to speak up. Thank you.
I just get to speak on one topic at a time, is that
Yep.
the rules? Okay. Number one, it's that we have houses in the city right now that are 3 stories high. We just don't call them 3 stories, they're called 2.5 because of the way the roof configuration is. The 35-foot height limit still applies to all buildings in the city, commercial, residential, everything. That has not changed. The thing that will change is maybe the way a house would look. Instead of having peaks on there, which could extend beyond 35 feet, you might have a flat top house that which could not extend beyond 35 feet. So they may even be shorter. A 3-story traditional house might even be shorter than a 2.5-story because of the dormers that you might have on there too. So it doesn't change anything else, just the wording definition. So that's the only, it's really a different change. You're going to hear from somebody who ran a petition on it, but the petition that he was submitted to the Planning Commission, and the wording on there does not explain what we were talking about. It has a one-sentence question on there, like, do you still beat your wife or something? I'm being facetious. That's not true, Ben. No, but it didn't explain exactly what we were discussing. So Mr. Twy explained it pretty well.
So it's a recommendation of the commission of deleting that statement in the stories.
To clarify, right? It's strictly the way you look at, right? The heights remains the same. It does not go up. We still have McMansions being built under the current ordinance. That doesn't change, which is good for our SEV.
Okay. Any other?
Ron?
The chair? Yes.
As a council rep on the zoning board, we turned down in the last couple of years 2 zoning requests for a 3-story house that met all criteria except that it was 3-story instead of 2.5. The setbacks, everything else was legal. The height restriction was met, but we had to turn them down. And you're talking significant, houses, not, a big expenditure. So, as a rep from the zoning, I would be in favor of deleting that reference in the code.
And that homeowner was waiting for a decision on the Planning Commission because they knew that you had to turn them down.
Right, yeah,
Legally, you had to turn them
they
down.
came to us, we had to turn them down.
They came to us and we said, wait a minute,
Yeah.
something's not. From time to time, we have text amendment changes in the 2 ordinances to make them clearer and more precise and everything. This is one of those cases.
Speak. Mm-hmm.
Just regarding 2.5 to 3 stories?
That's what on the agenda is stating that we're going to be removing the statement 2.5 stories and only maintaining 35 feet, which was the height that has always been there.
Well, I have since your meeting with you, it retains more people that I have 130.
Sir, for the record, could you please introduce yourself and state your address?
Pardon?
Sir? Can you please state your name and address for the record,
Ben
please?
Ainsworth, 19143 North Shore Road.
Okay. So you're submitting this for record today?
To the mayor first.
North Shore and other
Mhm.
areas in Ferrisburg have been run over with large homes on little 50-foot lots. And letting a 3-story home go up for one party could set a precedent for the city and the three-story homes and that throughout the whole city. They do evaluate, I mean, a three-story home versus a hip roof or a regular roof. Not evaluation in the neighborhood. 130 people, citizens that sign there, could probably get more. And east of Maple Street, and I haven't even been on the West Spring Lake area. So I could certainly get a lot more, but I feel that that's plenty. I had a lot of people come up to me and thank me for doing this. Even came to my house, signed a petition, even had an offer for dinner. I think that three-story home is a building. It's not a home. It's a building. It's a square box. It doesn't have a roof on it. It's going to 3 stories. It doesn't look like a home at all. I want to finish up with a comment that I met. Gentlemen, I met a lot of nice people, by the way, on this night. Gentleman is a retired missionary that moved to this area. Been all over the world, Korea, Germany, Australia. He settled here because we've got wood, lakes, we've got sands, and he said, we've got great neighborhoods. I wouldn't have been here if there's going to be 3 homes. That 3 stories belong in downtown Muskegon, downtown Grand Haven, downtown Grand Rapids. I ask you, would you like to look out your window morning or any time and see a 3-story building across the street from you or next to you? Thank you.
Public comment regarding this agenda item. Okay.
Just for clarification, we're for the wording, it's just 35 feet is what you want, period, right, Roger? Yes. So it could be 2, could be 3, it's 35. I hope that clears it up for the gentleman.
All right. Any other further discussion regarding this? Okay. Moving down to our next agenda item, 7C. Discussion, take action if appropriate to place on the August 5th City Council agenda consideration to adopt the proposed resolution regarding leasing a portion of the premise at 17290 Roosevelt Road, which resolution shall remain on file with the city clerk for not less than 15 days prior to the consideration by the City Council, and that a summary of the minutes from the July 15, 2019 meeting of the City Council be published in the Grand Haven Tribune. So this information is in regards to leasing the portion to Walden Woods, correct? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we renew the contract for Walden Green Montessori lease.
Support.
Okay.
Support it anyway.
Any further discussion regarding the renewal of this lease? Hearing none, all those in favor stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Moving down to item 7D. Discussion, take action if appropriate to approve a budget amendment 2018-2019. City manager had provided us with a list or the few items. At the bottom, there is no change to the bottom line of the above funds. Amounts within the funds were adjusted to have no department within the fund over budgeted. So it's just amendment to the budget. Yes.
I would make a motion to approve the budget amendments.
Support.
Okay. Motion support. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Yep. We're going to move down to, before our work session, the new item would be 7D1. Councilmember Carlson is requesting a second opinion to be done with for our bridge, for Smith's Bridge. Is that how you wanted it worded?
Indeed.
Are you working with the second opinion with a new, are you going to give city manager direction to select a new engineer? Okay. Well, we're looking for it to be on the agenda.
I make a motion that we hire a direct the city manager to hire a different engineering company to assess the condition of the bridge, the viability of redecking, and to get a better estimate, a second estimate to repair and or replace, all with the idea of getting second opinions.
Would
That's
that,
my motion.
would that include, I'm sorry. Would that include that payment being made by a private citizen?
Well, certainly the citizens could certainly donate to the cause.
Well,
just as
there
they can
there
to
was
the
an offer,
federal
was there
deficit.
not? Was there not an offer by a private citizen to pay for that second opinion?
Comment was made tonight, yes.
And certainly we could, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
We could certainly put a dollar limit on it. Okay. I'd certainly be able to that as well. But since the public has, a number of citizens have voiced their opinion that they'd like to do that, and we've given us an envelope of time to pursue that, I think that it might not be I think it would be a worthy venture to do that. Get a second opinion.
But are you going to put that in your motion, that it's privately funded second opinion? Gotta ask.
I will do that, privately funded.
So
Then put a dollar limit on it, so we don't bankrupt them.
I'm giving. That's very true.
Does somebody have 13 million they want to donate?
Somebody with wisdom.
Okay, just a moment. Just, whoever's speaking in the audience, you need to let us discuss this first, please.
Your Honor?
Just need clarification.
on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. So before we can go, and now,
Into
does our
discussion.
city clerk have all the information? Do not, you wish to have it repeated? Yes. Okay.
Have it written down, I'll just take that.
I do. Right here, can you pass this?
Got to
to her,
put in
please?
privately funded with the dollar limit.
Okay.
Because if it's unlimited, you don't want,
Underlined,
yeah.
Up to them, I guess, it's their money.
with the addition, Debbie, of being
long as the city
privately
doesn't
funded.
Fork
The
it over.
city, well, just do it.
Your Honor?
I was paying for it.
As I understand in previous conversations that the second opinion was going to be around $1,200. Is that as you understand it?
Current inspection's around $2,000 is what we've been paying for. So I did talk to an engineering firm today, and they said if they were to do a second opinion, it would be under that amount.
Under 2,000?
Yeah.
So that's how we want to word it? That's something?
He's making the motion.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, if a private citizen wants to step up and become involved at that level, I am all in support of a second opinion. I don't know how the rest of the council feels.
We have a motion we need to support.
I'll support it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Now, for further discussion, any additional discussion regarding this?
Craig, now, when your discussion to the engineer, was this a complete inspection from the bottom of the creek up?
It'd be from the water to above. So they would look at the piers, what's out of the water, under deck, and top of the deck.
But not the supporting structure underneath?
That's correct. We've had underwater inspections, those are required every 5 years. The last two have really resulted in no significant findings. Water
Violence
down.
underneath.
Once it's in the cold water, there's.
Okay, but I just want to make sure that we're getting a total inspection, not not a half a job here. Okay, thank you.
It's not going to be a total inspection. They're not going to go, they're just going to do the piers and the waters. So it will not be a total inspection.
Will not be a dive inspection, no.
So moving forward with this, and a second opinion is offered, and presented, what is the liability of the city?
It's an opinion.
Just a second opinion. So no liability to the city if this one comes through and says that the bridge is in perfect condition and we should reopen it.
I would have to review that with the city attorney.
Okay. So do we still want to move forward, or do we want to wait and have an opinion from the city attorney for this? There's a motion. Yeah, there has been.
Yeah, I did.
There has been. That's why we're in this discussion. So at this point, do we want, should we have, if this motion passes for a second opinion, do we wish to have our city attorney review it for the based on the liability that it could put the city in a position?
I have a question.
Okay.
When somebody does this from the city, and it's a very generous offer, don't get me wrong, but isn't it a conflict of interest? Is that a opinion we should get from our attorney?
But it's going to run through the city. So the city, he's directing the city manager to do this. So the opinion's going to be owned by the city. It's not, the report's not going to the private individual or anything. It'll be a public document, but it will come to the city.
You get to choose the engineer, correct?
He directed me to hire an engineer.
We directed, yes,
Directed him
we
to do that,
directed the
just
city
for
manager.
clarification for
That is correct.
everyone listening. Okay.
That clarifies my question.
Okay.
Just don't want any conflict of interest.
All right. So there's a motion and support?
Could I call for a roll call vote, please? Thank you.
So there's not going to be any cost to the city.
Correct.
Okay.
According to how the motion is written.
Okay.
Correct, Debbie?
Correct.
Okay, so you have the roll call?
Councilmember Kennedy.
No.
Councilmember Carlson.
Yay.
Councilmember Blease.
Yes.
Councilmember Twa.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Yes.
Mayor Hop.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Moving down to item 7E, discussion and work session for the city-owned Verpaint parcel. So we did receive, the RFP went out. We did receive from one company has responded, and so now we need to direct the city manager. Do we want to move ahead with what was provided to us, or do we want to send out additional RFQs for more developers to be involved with this? Or accept what was offered? Because it did go out to 12 developers, and it was advertised in the Grand Haven Tribune and the Muskegon Chronicle. Yes.
Craig, as this proposal is presented, he doesn't need any zoning variances to do what he's proposing?
There would be a permitted use in that zone district. We haven't seen any site plans or anything, so where there's a variance requested, we don't know the answer to that at this time. The developer is here if you want to ask him questions specifically.
Good evening. Different topic. We'd like to bring tax dollars to the city, so. Todd Camps, 174 West Spring Lake Road, so on the north side of the bridge. But anyway, I'll let that lie. We have been working on the renovation of the old Kraus property. We refer to that as channel side storage. We've had nice success there. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at that. I think there's been a nice transformation the past couple years, and our hope would be to look at a similar type use. Understand there's definitely a lot of truck traffic there, so we understand that. I think that was mentioned in the proposal. And again, we're local folks. Many of you know us, and we'd like to do something similar. We're looking at multiple sizes. We've had 4 different size units available at channel side storage. Finding interest maybe for some smaller units now, so we'd like to dig into that a little bit more, but of course would work with with the zoning rules, regs, setbacks. We have had our engineering firm look at the site and develop a rough site plan that's in your packet. We've had a wetland study done already to get a better understanding of what was there. The professional that did the wetland study for us thinks that the wetland is a little larger actually than what is designated now by the city. So, but again, our goal was to try to look at the ultimate impact and then see what we could do there. So, and that information's in the report also.
Attendance tonight and willingness to answer some questions. Yes, what you're doing on the current property is definitely an improvement from what was there. And I also know Megan very well, so.
Awesome.
Anyways, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kemps regarding this and his project presented?
Your Honor,
Yes.
what would be your timeline if you were to move forward with this tonight?
We'd like to, start the process as quickly as possible. Originally, some conversation with Craig. I was hopeful that we would be able to start maybe some work this fall. That might be a little aggressive. A lot of the subs are really busy, so I've had some conversations, excavator and underground. It's possible, but probably worst case is we would have this, go through site plan, go through the building planning, architecture, get all the permits, and then be ready to go in the spring. So 10% chance this fall, but I would say probably more realistically we'd be coming out of the ground in the spring. Yeah.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Whoop. You done? I went through this a couple times, and I support your project as presented. I did not see an offer as far as the offer for the property.
For the pricing?
Yeah.
I did reach out to Craig, and I reviewed the RFQ, and it referenced the appraisal, but did not, as I read it, unless I'm to be corrected or misunderstood it, I didn't see that was called out in there. So we didn't reference that in here. I didn't know if that would be in a second round, and Craig and I did briefly talk about that. So we understand that there's an appraisal done on the property, and that's what we base this on. As I mentioned, part of the reason we spent the money to get the wetland determination done is it appeared when we walked it that it looked larger than what it might have been. I don't know. I haven't been privy to the appraisal, so I don't know if there's some discussion that Craig might suggest happens on the usable amount. But we're open. We understand that it's been appraised, and if that's what it is, then that's we're comfortable with that. Again, I think there's a little bit less usable. And if we follow the wetland delineation, then I guess I would look to see if the value of the appraiser took that into effect or not.
I have a bridge I got to pay for. And if you're going to lowball an offer, we had an appraisal done because of.
And as I just said, we're comfortable with that.
Okay.
We knew that going in, and we are comfortable with that. And
I just want both of us to be on the same page.
yeah,
you know?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Any additional questions?
Would you be willing to put in a fire suppression system if the fire chief requested you to? I know there was talk on.
I don't know why, based on the size of the buildings, it wouldn't be required to
Not
by
necessarily
code.
required. No,
It's very expensive, and unfortunately, that drives the price up, which is a challenge. And I mean, just meeting the new building code on the new unit, the new 6 units that we're doing currently, it was significant to meet the new energy code. We had a lot of conversation about that. Just the steel panel and the added insulation was over $30,000 from our earlier 2 phases to that last phase. And I'm getting a little pushback, frankly, on pricing. When I presented this, I had commitments for all but 1, and unfortunately I lost 3 of those. So if I had to add fire suppression, it's expensive. So I guess I would probably answer that by saying we are going to meet the energy codes, we're going to meet the building codes, and our thought is would the design and the size would not require suppression. Not the one he wanted, but the answer, I'm being honest.
So, give direction back to city manager to move forward with this?
I would suggest that the developer and the city get together and bring a price to city council to approve.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
You can keep saying, hopefully we'll be back in front of you.
Thank you. All right. Moving down to public comments. Is there any additional public comments? Yes, ma'am. We're in the back.
Kyle Wilkie, 17664 Bayberry. I guess my only comment would be is that either which way that it goes with Smith's Bridge, is the city looking to make it look a little nicer? So this big cement barricades and the road closed signs, I understand are necessary to, show people that it's closed. But if it's going to be a walking or a biking bridge, it would be nice to have rope or wood or stone or something that would keep the pride showing in Ferrysburg. So I just wonder if that's going to be considered or has been discussed.
Not at this point, but everything is open for discussion. I've also been approached by a resident who would like to paint it red. Grand Rapids has the blue bridge, and they thought red would look really cool in Ferrysburg. So
I don't know about that, but I mean, just something that makes it look a little bit more.
Sure, appeasing.
Yes.
So that could definitely be in a future work session or so. What we want to do with it.
Wonderful.
So, okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yes.
Lisa Royce, 17700 Navajo. Question on the bridge, tearing it down. At one of the prior meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, if the bridge gets torn down, the chances of a grant is even worse than with it standing. Is that correct?
Possible grant funding to tear the bridge down.
No, but I mean, if we would tear it down, then getting a grant to rebuild the bridge
May be more difficult, correct?
will be more difficult to do. So
That's my understanding.
better to leave the bridge as a walking, biking bridge, still the path around Spring
Exactly.
Lake, and nicing it up and doing that, to leave it there until we decide if we're going to do the millage and all. It's better to leave the bridge standing for grant purposes in the future if we go there. I just wanted to get that out there. If it does get torn down, it's gonna be harder and more expensive for the taxpayers probably to redo it. And then somebody said 30 years is a normal life of a bridge. So yeah, we are looking at 30 years from now doing this all over again. So
Let us be our grandkids.
But
Some
by-
bridges are designed for 75 years. The lifespan of the Smiths Bridge should have been 75 years, and unfortunately, it didn't make 50.
Correct. Yeah. But by maintaining that bridge, it still will maintain that
14 miles around the lake, the bike connector path, the non-motorized trails and things like that, that I see people utilizing multiple times on a daily basis. So anyways, yes, sir. Yes, on that note, there are still motorized vehicles using that bridge multiple times. Scooters and also motorcycles have been, but the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department has been well aware of it, and they have been speaking with individuals at times. So just to make that clear. Yes, Mr. Jonas.
Yes, I went to my doctor the other day, and he says, you know, Roger, you're old. And I said, I want a second opinion. And he said, okay, you're ugly too. So second opinions are useful in some regards, but be careful what you ask for. And the only thing I would ask is that a second opinion be given by a registered PE, so that you're comparing apples and apples on somebody who has those kind of credentials. And also, if they take the current report and don't necessarily use that as a model, as I mentioned earlier, it's easier to explain to people what's going on if you have visual diagrams. And if I have to make a sketch on the back of the napkin, I can understand it better than what this last report was. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's a lot quicker to draw a picture than it is to type 1,000 words. So I would just put that out there. So the second opinion I got from my doctor was not worth $1,200.
Ann Smith, 17520 Williams Avenue, Spring Lake. So one of the things I want to bring up is that having 30 years of experience in putting federal grants, state grants, and foundation grants together, most grants require a cost share commitment. And the BUILD grant specifically had a section in there about innovative funding and looking for opportunities of being able to do public-private partnerships. One of the things that I would really like to present is that I think now that you have agreed to not put the millage on, is to look at citizens and take citizens who have expertise in these areas and to form a committee that could help assist you in how to be more competitive in grants, in philanthropy, in donations, various types of things that could help with maybe avenues that haven't been considered of how to raise funds for the bridge. Also, I believe, I don't know a lot about the sales of bonds, but I believe that municipal bonds can be bought by anybody. It doesn't have to just be somebody who is a citizen within Ferrysburg. So that is one way that maybe folks that live in Spring Lake and use the bridge, maybe they're interested in buying the bonds. So I really would like to ask and if you guys would put forth the motion to consider a citizen committee that could help assist you with expertise in various areas that relate to all of this. Thank you.
Nicole Vandenberg, 16814 Virginia. What I wanted to talk about is the millage rate and what you were proposing. I come into this as a realtor that sells houses to people, and I can hand them an amortization table that shows them how much money they will save by getting a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage. Just about everybody that I sell a house to gets a 30-year mortgage because that's what they can afford. And this goes based on monthly payment. In this case, it'll be yearly, but you know, they would save thousands and thousands of dollars by shortening that time frame, but people pick the 30-year mortgage because that's what they can afford. And so my other comment on that is this bridge, people keep saying this 30-year number, but Craig's saying this 75-year number. Why would we want to pay for a bridge in 20 years and just tax those citizens that live in Ferrysburg for those 20 years when people after year 21 won't have to pay for the bridge at all, that they'll be enjoying for potentially another number of years after that? So even though it's going to cost the city more money to have a longer millage and interest, I think that that is going to be what people can afford, and that is what people are going to vote for. And that's just my opinion on it based on what I do and what I see. So, thank you.
Sir.
Jacob Sturley, 16269 Suffolk Drive. I want to thank council for listening tonight and to our concerns. Because when I got done talking, there was one council member that was open to the idea of a second assessment. And after you guys discussed it and listened to public comment, it was passed. And that's how local government is supposed to work. Secondly, I want to say I agree with Ann Smith about forming some type of committee that involves citizens. Especially now that we've authorized a second assessment on the bridge, where maybe a committee could review both assessments that have been done and make a recommendation to City Council. Another voice, other eyes analyzing data, couldn't hurt. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about public comments during agenda items. I noticed that some people were allowed to talk during agenda items prior to a vote and some weren't. I think moving forward, that before a vote, everybody should be heard in public comments prior to a vote being taken. Thank you.
John Sanders, owner of the Reef Party Store at 17176 West Spring Lake Road. And I've agreed with a lot of what other people have said. They've expressed my opinions. But one thing that I didn't hear addressed was, once that bridge closed, the value of my business dropped significantly. So I'll be getting that tax assessment next year for the 2020. We'll see what that is. And, you know, if that doesn't show a decrease in value, I'll be filing an appeal. And I'm sure other businesses also have taken a hit. And I'm wondering about residential property too. Some people might think, well, it's great, the traffic is reduced, I never use the bridge anyway, but for others it's a major inconvenience. And my wife and I live just south of Holland, and we were going to move up here, and we love the area, we love the people, but family dynamics have kept us down there now. But prospective buyers in homes in this area might think this is a great place, but why'd they close the bridge? It's like, well, they ran out of money. So then I would think, well, what else are they going to close? Might be a little leery on buying in Ferrysburg. So looking at the property tax revenue, though, from the 2019 budget of 1.1 or 1.1 million, you know, in the future, that tax revenue might drop if the property values decrease. So that's the concern that I would have.
So I reached out to our assessors and I spoke with them. And in regards to that, they won't have any data until there's been market analysis done after homes have been bought and sold. So then at that point, that's when they'd be able to determine property values or so. I know some people that do live close to the bridge are pleased because it's very quiet.
Right.
So I mean, there's two sides in
I
that.
do get that, yes. And then I was wondering too, you've got the budget online. Is there a way we can find out what the fund balances are? Is there just a general fund? Are there other funds out there we can see the
We'll
fund
get that out there.
balances?
We'll put that out there on the website tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dave Wilkie, 17664 Bayberry. I was wondering, if you're going to ask for bids to rebuild the bridge, couldn't you ask the builders of the bridge to do their own inspection of the bridge? Have them hire an engineer and have them pay for it. If they want to build this bridge, obviously there's going to be some margin in their bid for expenditures along the way that they don't see. So if you ask the builders, could we please see your engineer's requirement and what they rebuild the bridge, instead of the taxpayers paying another engineer? This young lady's great offer to pay for that, but submit the bids out there right now and see what comes of that.
Public comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Larson.
Good evening, council, and members of the public. Chris Larson, 17673 Jordan Lane, Ferrysburg, Michigan. Sorry, I'm late to the game, and I'm not sure. Obviously, I was going to hear about the bridge, so I'm here about the bridge too, about the here and immediate. So when we get bad bridges, what do? We make lemonade. So I just would like to make a couple comments. While it's closed, is the Ferrysburg Sun Deck. My suggestions would be is with where on the south side of Smith's Bridge, where the barricades are at, move those back 25 feet because now it's becoming a more popular place for people to go fishing. So we're going to increase the parking areas. Hey, I remember times back, people at Veit's Landing would complain, and rightfully so, people in boatings, areas of popular place now for boaters, excuse me, hate to say it, but a porta potty in that area, since we're already pushing it back. Well, so these are from direct observations. So this is how we're going to make, the best of while council takes care of that. So my suggestion would be on the south side in the shady area, doesn't get too stinky. Boaters coming up there anyway. So for that, and then if you wanted to be fancy about it, get one handicap spot. So push those barricades back 25 feet. Use that as well. Oops, wrong notes. So that would be the one thing. And then another comment that I would have is for people jumping off of there. Right or wrong is, designate an area. We have fish at your own risk. And I'm not saying jump at your own risk. No, we're not going to condone that. Of course not. But almost a danger zone if you take, not, you know what I'm saying, so we're not opening the city of liability, but we already see people jumping off the bridge there anyway. Some people we want to push, no, just kidding. But, have those areas. So, change the signage a little bit. So in the middle where people are using that channel, yeah. If you go off towards the sides there, you might hit a kayaker, it's still going to be bad. So that's my comments, and I also heard a couple things about the bridge. My last 5 seconds worth is, I know it's a crappy position that you guys are in. My history at the bridge is back in, and record will reflect back in 2002 Sunday when I was a heavy civil contractor to the city about, taking a look at those piling. And so they acted 3 years later, put the things on there. So if you go underneath, it looks fantastic. So yes, is taking a look at other things, but for the here and now, let's do the best of that as well. So thank you very much.
Comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move down to reports. City manager.
No report.
City council members. Councilmember Blees.
Comments on the mayor's breakfast were good and positive. 4th of July parade. A lot of residents really liked the parade this year, and a lot of people came from out of town to enjoy it. I will not be in attendance on Monday, August 19th, council meeting and a report.
Enjoyed the 4th of July parade a lot. From my position at the end of the parade, a lot of positive comments, and there were. I talked to several people that were from out of town, coming here just to watch our parade. So I think it's one of the things really nice about this city is we've got people from other areas coming in. Along with the tree planting, people come. Last Saturday, 4 members of the Ferrysburg Fire Department took part in the search and rescue operation for the gentleman that was lost. Although we did not find him, there was a great effort put forth by the entire.
I too attended the 4th of July. It's always a fun day for citizens of Ferrysburg. And also, I want to thank some people concerning the bridge about the positive feedback that we have had. I know people are frustrated and inconvenienced, and there's another word I'm looking for here. But the bridge that we have is a bridge of convenience. If you're looking at it from the state's point, there are 2 other ways to get in to that area of Ferrysburg. So the bridge is not really a necessity. So it's just food for thought. There is 2 other entries and exits to that side of Ferrysburg. But then, on the other hand, the movement for the reef, the support of the reef is great. I've been telling people, pull together, support the reef, pay an extra $1 or $2, maybe cheaper at Meyer, but you're supporting a conglomerate, where if you're supporting the reef, you're supporting a family. John's, hanging in there, and I think as a community, we need to stand with him and help him out during this time. And with the donations of the shirts and the stickers, again, positive. This is what the community needs. We don't need this negativity. We don't need darts being thrown at council. We're common people. We're citizens. We're taxpayers. We're doing the best with what information that we have and what we feel is best for the whole of the city. When we sit up here, none of us concentrate on a certain section of Ferrysburg or a certain group. When you sit up here, you have to consider all of the citizens in all of Ferrysburg. This is a one city. It's not split in half or any of that. So let's try to keep things positive, because it's going to help. You start getting negative and you're going to get emotional. It's better to keep your emotions in check and come together as a community and support each other during this time. End of report.
I would second what Councilman Kennedy just mentioned about not separating the city. I moved here 6 years ago from Petoskey area, and my family's been involved in the city government there, and they actually have wards. And so the city's divided up into 4 sections, and there's a lot of infighting between the 4 sections when you have council people that only represent a certain portion of a city. So I certainly agree with the one city that we're all working towards to better. Kitchell Lindquist Dune Preserve, I appreciate council support in passing during the consent agenda about having an outside party come in and do invasive species pull. We've been battling that on, and we've had a number of volunteer events, and so we're trying something new out of our funds that we have based on our endowments to actually have a private company come in and try it out this year for the first time. So, and a report. Oh, and also Kitchell Lindquist Dune Preserve Board meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. Be here, be square.
I want to say too, the 4th of July parade is classic small town, which I thoroughly enjoy. My grandchildren also thoroughly enjoy it, and look forward to it every year. The only other comment that I would have would be when it comes to the running of the city, it has to be transparent, and we've done a lot towards that with the help of Sandy and Lisa, and there goes our fire department. But social media has a way of smearing people unjustly, and a lot of times comments are made without the facts. And this whole bridge issue, these decisions were made with the facts. And the fact that someone doesn't know what's going on, they're entitled to as stupid of an opinion as they want. I'm not stopping people from saying what they want to say, but the end result is it creates an environment which isn't positive. And if people would look towards the facts and educate themselves, I think this process could move on without hard feelings, and we can move towards a positive end result. End of report.
Thank you to the beautification committee for the mayor's breakfast, 4th of July parade. They do an excellent job. I just want to personally thank them. It's a good community to live in, and we've tried to provide a fun environment for the citizens as much as we can. This bridge thing is not fun for any of us. It's not fun for you, it's not fun for us. It is what it is. That's it.
Just want to repeat other comments about 4th of July. It was well attended, positive comments. Also, there's a family that came in from Florida. They were looking for a 4th of July event. They were visitors in Grand Haven, and they picked our parade to come to. So I thought that was really, really exciting. Coast Guard picnic is coming up on July 28, Sunday from 1 to 4. And then also July 29 from 3 to 4 here at City Hall. We're going to be hosting the Michigan DNR, gathering information from the public regarding watercrafts and that on Lake Michigan. So with the high water and that, I'm in Lake Michigan with Spring Lake. So with the high water, if you're available or you're interested in attending, please mark that on your calendar. And I also want to just thank council as we work through this tonight. Everybody was very thoughtful. We worked through some challenges in that, but I believe we got the end result that we were looking for. So anyways, thank you very much. End of report.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Meeting adjourned. They were clapping.
I don't care about rocks, I can talk good.
Mr.